Okay, going over Shabbos Rabbi, so we're continuing in Sefer Chofetz Chaim. Today we do the Arurin. The Arurin. V'ata nevar be'ezos Hashem. Now I will explain with the help of Hashem ma sheya'adnu el, what I promised before, b'tchilas ha'psicha lefaret, to enumerate in the beginning of the Pesicha. Kama Arurin mekabel alatzei, how many curses one puts upon himself. Misha inusham asasim mida rahazo, one who does not guard himself from this terrible midah. Number one, levad kol alav ma'asan anal, aside from the 17 lavin and the 14 ases, oiver al oror makle re'eo basasar. Curse is someone who hits his friend in secret. Shukoy al lashon hara, it's going on lashon hara. K'maydi isa b'sifri u'b'perish Rashi b'chumash. And the Ber Chaim says this applies whether he's present and when he's not present, but only to the speaker. Even though you could ask, if it's basaser, then maybe if he's not present. It's only if he's not present. No, even if he's present. Even if the subject is present. Beis, oiver gamkein al or mashke iver badarech. Curse is someone who causes the blind person to err on the road. What does that refer to? Diadua the kavanas hakasav la'arer. It is known the intent of the pasuk is to put a curse al misha noisin michshol lefnei achar shiasa yada iser. Someone who puts a stumbling block before another that you cause him to do an avera. Dumya delav de lefnei iver loisitein michshol. Similar to lav of lefnei iver. So whatever circumstances one would violate lifnei iver, we know the mesaper is over lifnei iver because he causes a makabel to receive it. The makabel is over lifnei iver because he causes a mesaper to speak it. One, it takes two to tango. One can't do it without the other. So you would also be over or mashke iver badarch. Now remember, Chofetz Chaim had a suffix that the mesaper is always over on lifnei iver. The makabel, maybe only the first makabel is over lifnei iver. The second makabel, the second guy standing there, since the mesaper could have done it without him, so maybe he's not causing him to do the avera. Or unless we say no, because he's causing the mesaper to violate a bigger avera. Okay, that was the suffix. Gimel, v'mchaz sham nasa dar esek k'may hefker. If, heaven forbid, the avera of lashon hara has become like hefker, she'enoi mekabel al atzmai li shamri mena, that a person says, I don't do that. I don't do that. That's not part of my Judaism. You have people, there's certain things, I don't do that. So a guy walks out by the Haftarah. I don't do that. I didn't grow up with that. That's not part of my. So somebody who's mafker, the avera, there's another aror. Over oidal or shlishiv, who or asher lo yakim es divrei Torah zois la asois oisam. Cursed is he who does not uphold the words of the Torah to do it. Sheperushai, the meaning is asher lo yikabel al atzmai lekayim es kol Torah. Someone who doesn't accept upon himself to fulfill the Torah. Vu nikra mumar, he's like a heretic ledavar echad. He's like a rebel for one thing. Normally we say a mumar is someone who's not makabel the Torah, but you could have a fina yid who's makabel 612 mitzvahs. If he's not makabel this, regarding this, he's a mumar. Kivan shabishat nefesh over al isra chamar hazeh. Why is he considered a mumar? Because he flagrantly is violating this isra chamar. And he's considering this thing, the Torah of Hashem, as hefker to him. Kamay shar mumar l'chala Torah kula, like any other mumar for the whole Torah. V'al kein gadol avoynoi minasai. Therefore, his sin is too great to bear. Harei chishavnu gimel arurin. Behold, we have enumerated 3 curses, hametsuyin lavai aidei midah rahazo, that are likely to come through this terrible midah. By the way, one of the benefits of learning Sefer Chofetz Chaim is that if you learn Sefer Chofetz Chaim regularly, at the very least, you cannot say that the person is mafkir this lav. If someone spends an amount of time daily learning Hilchos Lashon Hara, obviously they value Lashon Hara. So it might happen that a person is nichshal. Well, Sheva Yipal Tzadik V'Kam. But at the great benefit of learning Hilchos Lashon Hara is that you put it back on the map. V'im chas v'chalil lashon hara al oyev al avav v'ima. If heaven forbid the lashon hara is on your father or mother, oiver oid al or ravi. One is further over a 4th aror. V'hu aror makle avav v'ima. Curse is someone who who disparages his father and mother. Now, what does it mean to get an Arur? The statement of the Gemara in Shvus is known. The Arur by Klala by Nidai. Arur is a curse. It gets an excommunication. Lachein, kalish, any person, sheyodea ba'atzmai, that knows about himself, shaloi nizhar me'avain hamar hazeh, that is not careful about this bitter sin, tzarach liyos chared benafshay, he should be frightened for his soul. Ulai, perhaps chas v'shalom, niduhu b'shamayim azah, maybe they excommunicated him from heaven. Uke'ein ma shekasav b'sefer charedim, like it's written in the sefer charedim, le'inyan makla ava v'imai ayin sham. There are many other bad repercussions and outcomes from the bitter sin of Lashon Hara. It could lead to cruelty, hagerua, which is very despicable, umidas hakas, and the midah of anger, shu avain chama, which is a severe sin, like Chazal go to great lengths to explain in Masechta Shabbos. V'gan kampam ba'idei zel leitzonos. Often Lashon Hara could bring you to mockery, v'lasharei midos rois kiyosvem, or other similar bad attributes. Al kain, therefore, al kain, al kol divrei hapsicha hazois. Chofetz Chaim is paraphrasing. Basically, this is the reason for this psicha. By the way, you know the Chofetz Chaim wrote the Pesicha before he wrote the rest of the Sefer as a standalone. Like, in other words, even if you don't know all the halachas of Lashon Hara, but you see this Pesicha, that basically, if you go over to a guy and you say one sentence of Lashon Hara, you say 5 words, it's worse than eating a piece of pig. Well, the statement I just made is not a hyperbole, it's not an exaggeration. It's worse. It is worse. No Jew would eat a piece of pig. If you read this Pesicha, the Chofetz Chaim wanted a person to feel that as far from a chazer as you would, right? You wouldn't go on Pesach, and let's say somebody gave you a food on Pesach, and there was a hechsher, and was it a good hechsher? It's not a good hechsher, but you say you're not going to eat it. I'm telling you, nobody's going to eat it, and it's probably kosher, and this is worse. So it says I'll call divrei apsichaza shemimenu nuchal haben es god al kokal ba'idei lashon hara chilos, that we could understand the destruction that comes from singing lashon hara chilos. Be'ara lanu atar beferish ishozeh. Therefore, the Torah explained and enunciated a specific isser without beating around the bush, because the Torah could have just said, look, in every situation of the 31 Da'iraisas and 3 Arurim, you're bound to violate like 17 of them. So the Torah didn't have to give a specific Isra of Lashon Hara, because there are enough things that say not to do it. But in order to save you, that you don't get near it, the Kasva Aleh Lav Meyucha, the Torah wrote a explicit lav, lo yiselech rachel ba'amecha, yoiser me'al kol hamidos rois, above and beyond all bad midos, u'chumash shekasavnu b'tchilas hapsicha, like we wrote in the beginning of the Pesicha, u'v'zai nishlam hapsicha. With this, the Pesicha is concluded. Va'avakesh liyedidi ha'korei. The Chofetz Chaim says, I beg you, my friend, the reader. I mean, can you imagine Chofetz Chaim's asking you to do something? It's like my heart is beating. The Chofetz Chaim is asking us, Shazois hapsicha yikra v'yachzar v'yikra, that you should read over this Pesicha many times. Ki hi bevadai mo'ila le'inyan zeh al haba yosem min hakol. Of all that we're going to learn in this Sefer, this will be the most beneficial. Ki hi meluketes me'es harishayim. The words of this Pesicha are gleaned from the Rishayim. Asher devreihem kedoshim utahirim. The words of the Rishonim are holy and pure. Bayarais kamari alapidim. They burn like a torch. Ubevadai shamru es atzman mimida grua zo atachlisa. You could be sure the Rambam, Rabbeinu Yoina, the Yad HaKtana, the Smag, they were all careful from this midah to the nth degree, to the epitome. Al kain divrehen payalem oid belev karehan. Therefore, their words are so effective on the heart of the reader. This is one of the most powerful statements in the writings of the Chofetz Chaim. Says the Chofetz Chaim, the personal observance of the writer has an effect on the reader. And because the words of the Pesicha come from the Rishonim, who definitely were so careful in Lashon Hara, it will have a deep influence on the reader. By the way, this is a very important principle in general. The efficacy of even, obviously, the spoken word is much more effective if the speaker themselves is careful in that inyan. Even though it's an intangible quality. Who knows? Nobody knows. Nobody knows whether maybe the speaker is just saying words and he himself is not careful. But when it comes to speaking, everybody understands it comes across. Amazingly, the Chofetz Chaim is teaching it comes across in the written word. And therefore, let's apply this to the rest of the Sefer. Because who is more careful in Lashon Hara than the Chofetz Chaim himself? Who is more careful in the laws of Lashon Hara than the Chofetz Chaim? So therefore, every word the Chofetz Chaim writes definitely is very powerful and effective. V'gam yeda akorei. You should also know, reader, that I didn't just randomly grab lavin and asen. Rak chakarti, I investigated v'darashti and I searched. Heitev es taryag mitzvahs. V'harbe yegiyos yagati. And I toiled greatly. Ad she'azarani HaKadosh Baruch Hu, until Hashem helped me. Shematzasi es elu hana'osim linyanenu, that I found these mitzvahs that are appropriate for our inyan. Uchedei shelo yipalei b'einei hakarei. So it should not be a wonder to you. Kivan shegadol kol kach kayach le'esor shel lashon hara v'chein shalai noas devarim. If the sin of lashon hara and Aina is so strict, lama matzina by Gemara kam pa'amim. Why do we find many times sheyera in the Gemara l'chayra she'amoira echad mekanter l'chaverei? It seems that sometimes an amoira could poke at his friend. Gam al zeh pakachti eini, says the Chofetz Chaim. I didn't forget to address that. That takdi machmazeh tshuvas chavos yair b'soif hasefer. At the end of the sefer, I copied over from the tshuva the chavos yair. Why sometimes an amor will say, I think Rav was sleeping when he said that. Hey, that's not oinas dvarim? That's not lashon hara. V'gam harbe ma'amorim teratzi ba'atzmi b'soif hasefer ze'er sham. And I myself answered up a lot of it in the Sefer. Rabbi said this concludes the Pesicha. The Hilchos Lashon Hara in general are considerably shorter than what we did in the Pesicha, or at least shorter. And this is a milestone to finish the Pesicha. And Be'ez Hashem should give us siyata d'shmaya to be zahir in these halachas. It should be a zechus for all of us personally, all of our families, and all of Klal Yisrael. Shkayach. Have a great Shabbos, everyone. Oh, that being said,